Hello again, everybody. Welcome to Michael's Record Collection, where we talk about great music with the people who make it and the people who love it. I'm very excited to have back on the program from the Flower Kings, Roine Stolt. Roine, thanks for your time.
Oh, you're welcome.
Got a new album coming out as we are recording this a few weeks in advance. May 2nd, the album Love drops on Inside Out Music. It's your 17th studio album with the Flower Kings. First one since 2023's Look at You Now. And we're going to talk a little bit about this. But first, I want to ask you a little bit about Look at You Now and kind of how the response was for that album.
Well, the response was very good, but that's what it usually is. It's very good. I mean, there may have been one or two albums where reception wasn't that good initially, I would say, but rather after a while, people get to know the songs
Mm-hmm.
and they start loving the album. As I mean, with a lot of progressive rock. I mean, thinking back to the day, when I started listening to bands like King Crimson or Yes or Genesis, I didn't take much notice of even like first time hearing Genesis. I thought they were okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then I became a really hardcore fan, and the same with Yes, probably hearing something like long distance run around or roundabout or something like that. I thought they were okay, but I was probably into something else at the time.
Yeah.
But anyway, so with Flower Kings and the previous album, it's I mean I thought it was a really good album, and we played quite a few songs from it live
Mm-hmm.
also. But I mean after a while, it's when people mention songs, I honestly I have to think hard, before I remember. Oh, what was that song? I have to ask, well, yeah, okay, what was that song from what album? Because so many songs, and
Yeah,
sometimes even so many bands, as you know.
that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And on any given day, it could be Transatlantic, it could be The Tangent, it could
Oh,
be
yeah,
Agents of
could be.
Mercy.
It could be.
Yeah. Well, that's good. I'm glad that people warmed up to the album and that you were able to get so much of that played live and take that out on the road with you. So that's outstanding. I'm glad that it did well for you. When did the writing for Love begin? Did it begin right after that album finished, or were there some bits that were undeveloped from that you brought forward into this album?
Well, I mean, the normal procedure would be to do an album and then do some touring. And when once you get into rehearsing for the touring, then you sort of uh, I rarely go into writing songs, because you have to focus on one thing. And there's of course lots of business work also that is not music related. It's more like paperwork and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a normal business week for me. But once I mean, usually around summertime when everything slows down a little bit, I like to be outdoors, but I also like to be indoors and writing and thinking about bits and pieces I've come up with. Normally, things come up, musically ideas, and I sometimes just sing into my iPhone.
Yeah.
That's handy because it kind of proceeded to set up the computer with professional microphones and stuff like that. So, I mean, that this goes a long way. You have something like a pocket memory, so to speak, and you can sing in a melody or a chord sequence or something like that, or even set up and bring out an acoustic guitar and get ideas down to not a tape, but to this little device.
Yeah.
So that's something I do over time, and once if there's once the idea is there, I like to at least catch it, and then I can listen back later. And so I do that all the time. But I mean, for this new album, I actually did not have a lot of music prepared or ready It was more like we decided to, okay, this is, winter time. That's a good time to get together and record and write and do that, while springtime or early autumn or even summertime is when you can play, you can tour, because I mean here in Sweden and in big parts of Europe you have lots of snow in the winter time, and we've we've been doing that for a couple of years. We did that actually touring, and it was really cold, and I did not enjoy that so much, to be honest. It's always nicer if it's more like springtime or summertime. But anyway, so over the winter months, like whatever, November, December, January, February, it's a good time to get together and look at what we have. And so for me, whatever I have or whatever I can come up with in terms of small bits and pieces of music, then I sit down and try to develop that into something, and even, start singing and coming up with lyrics. So that's, I think for this album, I probably started around, let's see, we did a tour in Europe in November or maybe late October last year. So right after that, after just coming home and having a week of rest, I started looking into new music and playing. I mean, just freely. It's not like I'm super set to, I got to write a song today. If I write a song, fine. If not, I'm just noodling with my guitar or the keyboard, and whatever comes, we'll see if it works out in the end.
When you're putting an album together and you're writing songs, is there a point where you think this is enough songs for an album, or is there a point where you think this is enough songs that I need to make this a double album?
No, I mean we don't really plan double albums. It's
Mhm.
I mean in fact for this album we did now, we had more songs. We could have done a double album, but we have done many, as you probably know. So I was thinking, why not just do a single album, and then we have the other material we have already. We have tracked drums for a couple of more songs, and I've been working on lyrics, etc. So I wouldn't say we're halfway, but we have some material, whatever, 25, 30 minutes of music already for the next album, and for this, it's just like I suppose I just keep writing until someone say we gotta book the studio, we're gonna start recording. If or maybe in this case, you gotta have a dialogue with the record company, because as things has panned out lately, it's like there was a time when you can go into the studio, you record, you do a mix of the album, and then 1.5 months later you have the album out.
Mm-hmm.
But that was back then. Now it's everything is focused around having the lead up time. I mean, with the pressing of vinyl, it's just like crazy, because it's like there's a long queue of of people that want to press their albums outside the pressing plant, for vinyls. The CD is quick. That you can have that done in 2 weeks. But for vinyl, I think it used to be 3 months. Now I think it could be up to 5 months.
Wow. So
Yeah, so that.
so was this actually finished? When did you send it off to the record company?
Oh, I think I sent it off last days of November. I think I remember doing the mastering of the album, and it comes out now in May. And what's that? Maybe you're better at math than me. So, well, at least
That's almost 6 months. Yeah.
yeah, 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 yeah. So, and I mean that used to be. Now, in fact, I do have the. Let me see. I do have. Look here.
Oh yeah. There it is.
I That's the CD, and I do have the vinyls too. Uh, so it was actually, well, it's the release date is the 2nd of May, right? So it's well, I did have it at least 1 month ahead of the release date. But anyway, I mean, that's I don't worry too much about that kind of thing. It's up to the record label and whatever they say. I would just try to be a good boy and deliver when they want me to. It's
Yeah,
strict deadlines, and they know about these things. It's I worry about the music, and they have to worry about the business side of it.
absolutely. So when you go into the studio, have you already worked up demos to play for the guys, or do those
Oh,
parts get
oh yeah,
fleshed out
yeah.
in?
No, no, definitely, definitely. We all of us we do demos, and I mean, in my case, my studio is a little bit more advanced because I have collected studio stuff over time, and so the mixing and everything takes place here. So, when I do demos, my demos are the demos that I present to the guys in the band. They're kind of you know, I wouldn't say polished, but they're they're a little bit more advanced.
Yeah, yeah.
And
So
I've been doing it for so long, so it's like I developed, I mean, over 40 years or whatever, 45 years, I developed the technique of getting great guitar sounds and vocal sounds and doing a quick mix, and so I wouldn't say it sound sorry, I wouldn't say it sounds like a record, but it sounds like a very advanced demo. So that's what they get to hear.
so when you one of the things is when I'm listening to this record, and really all Flower Kings records, but this one I think especially struck me as listening in headphones reveals all these little small bits of texture and like maybe a very subtle guitar part here, or a very little keyboard flourish there. How much time percentage wise does it take writing and recording the basic track, and then versus how much time it takes to add that flavor, that texture, and those little subtle parts?
Oh, the extras actually take a bit of time because that's you have to trust your judgment on what is supposed to. That's when my sort of I take on my producer hat, so to speak. I have to, it's about kill your darlings because you can come up with lots of really cool guitar. You can put on 10 guitars, and you can have the Hammond organ, the Mellotrons, the Moogs, the different Moogs and synth basses and pads and whatever, and the same thing with vocals. You can just put in a lot of vocal ideas. But in the end, I think the listener can, I wouldn't say the attention span, but rather the human brain can not take in too many details, you know. So it's about finding the balance between a very to the point arrangement and some little typical whatever Flower Kings goodies, in
Yeah,
the stereo field and whatever synth lines or stuff like that or percussion things. So that's what actually takes a little bit more time, tracking the basic tracks because the drummer usually comes very well prepared and it's I usually have Hasse here and we're doing the vocals, and I would say for a normal album he will be here maybe 4 days, maximum 5 days tracking sometimes even 3 days. A little bit depending on the material, but so and in my case actually I don't spend a lot of time on tracking guitar. I usually just plug in the guitar, play whatever I feel, and then I may do another track, and then I just cut bits and pieces from it. And if I'm doing an acoustic guitar, you know, I may track all the song, but then in the end, I cut out the bits. I think that this bit needs acoustic guitar, and these bits do not need acoustic guitar. So in a very spontaneous, it's not like I have a sort of a very clear roadmap how to
yeah,
record a song. It's more like I record, and if I like what I hear, I keep it. If I don't like it, if I feel the song doesn't need that, guitar part or the whatever the vocal part, I just take it away. And that's what I mean with Kill Your Darlings.
Mm-hmm.
May sound good. I mean, there may be a nice little guitar lick or the phrasing or the sound may sound good to your ears, but you have to ask yourself, does the song need this part? Or
Yeah.
is it just, am I just playing because I can play,
Yeah.
because I could play all over the song?
You have to leave some
So
space.
you have to leave some space, and you have to learn from the master, so to speak. So if you listen to an old Beatles album, or they were just four guys and they had really nice vocal harmonies, and but usually it could be like two guitars and sometimes just acoustic guitars and maybe a tambourine and a great bass part, and it sounded full and great. And the same thing with early Yes albums. I mean, nowadays it's more like layers and layers, but if we listen back to the early Yes albums, like Close to the Edge, it's not a lot really. It's five guys playing, or basically four guys playing, but there may be some additional little keyboard thing on top, but the sounds and the ideas are so well, thought out, and the sounds of the bass guitar and the drums are full, and so it sort of carries the song, the way it should.
Mm-hmm. One thing that struck me about listening to Love is that it's fresh, it's new, but
Mhm.
there are a lot of similarities to Flower King's albums, especially early on, like Retropolis and World of Adventures, and maybe a little bit of Space Revolver in there. There seemed to be a lot of that vibe in this album. Is that something that you were looking for, or just a happy accident?
I think it's probably a bit of both, to be honest. I think maybe the intention was to, because I ended up in a situation where I was asked to. We were talking to the record label. They wanted to release every album, old Flower Kings album, on vinyl.
Mm-hmm.
So I ended up in a position where I needed to decide if I want them to just take the basic mixes they had for 20 years, and release them as they were, or if I wanted to go back and, to the reel-to-reel tapes and listen to the mixes to see if I could, you you know, better them in some way, or expand, or make a better mix, more dynamic mix or something like that. So that's what I did. So probably half of it I remixed. And doing that, I of course revisited the songs and the old albums, and found some appreciation for the way we wrote songs back then, the way I was thinking when I wrote those songs. I tried to remember and try to get back to that feeling and not just be professional, and because I can write a lot of songs,
Mm-hmm.
but to find the magic. What was the magic of the early albums? So that's probably part of it, and the other is maybe that more like from like a musical, philosophical idea of what should you put, as I was talking about the old Beatles or Yes albums or something like that. The way you use the instruments and how you mix them. It's not about putting layers and layers and layers of instruments on top of each other to make it sound huge, because even like four instruments, can sound huge if you mix it in a proper way. So I try to sort of go back to school and relearn how would I do this, how can I sometimes just let the piano be there, and I don't need to have guitar in that part, or maybe we don't need to have the backing vocals all through the songs.
Mm-hmm.
We find a way to sort of help the dynamics of the song with the way we mix it, I think.
Yeah. So you what you've ended up with, I think, is that you've developed your skills as a songwriter over time. You've developed and grown as an artist in new ways. but at the same
Mhm.
time, you've rediscovered some of the feelings, some of the vibes, some of the way you recorded those songs, as you said. And I think it's come up with this beautiful hybrid album of what we've heard over the last few albums and what really kind of got you guys noticed in the early days. And it's, I think, makes this album really unique in your catalog.
Oh, well, I couldn't say. I couldn't say. It's always like you're too close to it. So
Yeah.
so we don't hear it the same way as you guys hear because you hear it for the first time. I heard the songs when they were demos, and then you're so in this bubble, of the creation of the album, and then listening to it again, and for various reasons, now we're rehearsing some of the songs because we're gonna go on tour. So you hear it many, many times, and then you lose I think you can't really see it that way. But um, I mean, for me personally, it's more like some sort of a basic feeling of I don't see it as unique in terms of a Flower Kings album because I think there's definitely a very typical Flower King sound to it.
Mm,
Maybe the piano came to the forefront a little bit more because of Lalle, and maybe we scaled down the arrangements a bit. I think we still have a few elements of folk music that is Swedish folk music that is something we had from the very beginning, and that maybe a little bit unique for the Flower Kings. Just the same way as you can hear in Jethro Tull, you can hear a bit of British folk music, and even in Genesis, early Genesis, you hear a bit of the English, typical English music.
yeah.
So I think in the Flower Kings we have the Swedish folk music, something I grew up listening to when I was a kid, and over time I would say, it's always been there. So yeah, I mean, it's again, I mean, from the band perspective, it's like we see it differently than
Yeah.
the list. It's
Sure.
just a good.
You've been living it. Obviously, that would make it a different experience for you. What about equipment? Are you the kind of guy who primarily uses one acoustic guitar, one electric guitar? Do you change guitars often? Do you use a lot of them?
I probably, well, let me think. I mean, for this album, I probably used tops maybe 4 or 5 guitars. There's definitely one 12-string acoustic that I've been using for most of or all of the Flower Kings albums actually. A Canadian guitar, 12 string, and there's two different acoustic 6-string guitars. One is like a brand new Gibson, and the other one is a old Guild guitar. And the electrics are my trusted Telecaster. That is sort of a Frankenstein Telecaster that I I had for 20 years. I've used that for a lot of the tracks, and I used another. Well, I'll use my old Gibson Les Paul from '53, I think, a gold top that has a great sound, but it's a little bit difficult to. You can't really play all over the fretboard because it's not in tune. It's not perfection in terms of the tuning. And my well, I wouldn't say I have perfect pitch, but it's close to that. So everything that's a little bit out of tune, I it's really it hurts. So the Gibson Les Paul Gold Top, I can play for recordings because then you can tune in between takes and stuff like that, but can't really use it on stage, and I can't really use it for a whole song.
Mm,
So I use that one, and then I have another guitar that a guy built for me some 10 years ago that's called Jet. And it's American luthiers that built the guitar for me. Uh, and I used it back then, 10 years ago, and then it just been sitting in the case. But now I rediscovered it. So now I'm going to use it on the tour, and I'm using it right now. See if I have it here. I have it here. I can show it to you.
Oh, look at that.
This, you can see it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like a humbuckers. There's a tremolo arm and there's a piezo pickup in it. And super nice. Super nice guitar.
There you go.
That's probably one of the guitars I'm gonna bring to the live stage. But I mean, there's Stratocasters and other guitars, but I'm not a collector anymore, I would say. There was a time when I was just, having way too many guitars, but they're sitting there in cases, and I feel sad because I think a guitar should be played just like any instrument. If you have drums or whatever, piano, or don't let it sit there. It should be
Yeah.
played.
I know what you mean. That's why I've sometimes I feel bad, but I've so many albums. I feel bad when I don't get to one for a while.
Yeah, exactly the same thing. I'm thinking about all my albums that I never ever. I work all the time, and I sometimes I say, "Oh, that album, I should listen to that," that Bruford album or that, whatever, uh, the Beatles' Love or something like that, and no, I don't.
Yeah. So
There's never time.
speaking of love, the were there I know that you told me before last time we talked that you sort of write your lyrics, you sort of just sing kind of what comes into your mind. You don't necessarily always write them out. Is that kind of the approach you took on this album? And were there any themes in your head that kind of made their way into your lyrics?
Uh, no, no, not really. Nothing was planned, really. I don't like that. I think sometimes if you have a plan, it may work really well for other people, but for me, it doesn't work that well because I feel like someone is having this grip, and you got to do this, you got to come up with this type of a song or this type of a lyric. You got to say this, and it just it doesn't work well for me. I have to
Mm,
be honest. It's so I think the most relaxed I am ever in music is when I improvise with just jamming with people. There's nothing I can create in the moment, and that tells something about the way I approach music. I'm good at improvising, but and that's why I can improvise solos. People, some other guitar players, they do solos on a record and then they learn their solo and play it live every time. And I could never do that. I can't even learn my solos. I'm not clever enough to learn my solos, but the songs, of course, you need to learn, so it's like that takes some effort to sit down and really learn your songs, because I mean some of these songs are really complicated and different time signatures, and let's say a chorus or a melody goes in one key, and then at the end of the song you have the same theme but it's going in a different key, and then you need to remember all this,
yeah.
because we're not reading music, we're just playing, rehearsing it and playing, you know freely without any written music. So that takes a bit of effort for me, actually, and more so over time, I think, because maybe because of age, you know, more difficult to learn stuff and keep things, a long set list, let's say for 2 hours.
Yeah.
So much to learn.
So
Mm.
the reason I bring it up is because some of the lines or maybe just a few words from one
Mhm.
song will make it into another one. For example,
Oh, I lost you. I lost you.
let's see. Can you hear
Uh,
me?
you're back. Yeah.
Okay, sorry about that. Um, so the
Some of the
reason I,
line
pardon me.
you were saying some of the
Yeah,
lines
yeah.
were.
So the reason I asked and brought that up is because some of the lines from some songs make it into others. For example, in "Love Is," we hear the revisiting of the chorus from "How Can You Leave Us Now," and I think it was uh, "Burning
uh,
Both Edges." I think you talk about the walls of shame in your lyrics for that one.
Yeah, yeah. I mean that's the way we were working with let's say a set of songs, And sometimes, I mean, if you look back at Flower Kings, the older albums, you have albums like let's say Flower Power. That was an album we released back in 98 maybe or 99. And this one has this long, very long song, the Magnum song that's called Garden of Dreams.
Yeah.
But if you look at Garden of Dreams, it's actually, I would say, a collection of shorter songs that sort of stitched together to be a 1 hour song, you know. And in this one too, we have certain themes that are coming back. So there may be a melodic theme in the beginning of the song that comes back, but in a different tempo or a different key or even a different time signature later in the song. So that's more like let's say a symphonic idea of how you put music together. I mean, the album in itself is you experience the album, whatever 60 minutes or 60 minutes plus of music, you know,
Yeah.
just like watching a movie, you know.
Yeah. You have
And
motifs that you bring back.
yeah, yeah. I mean, in classical music, you have that all the time, you know. You have a little theme, and then it entered the in the beginning, you know, with the flute, and then in the end, it comes with the full orchestra, you know, and
Yeah.
in a maybe different tempo, or up tempo, or slower tempo, etc. So it's nothing we have uh, we haven't really come up with that idea. It's something that's been used in music history,
Yeah.
or even in pop music, of course. Like, I mean, the Beatles used it sometimes, you know, in even nicking ideas or melodic phrases or even lyric ideas from one song and putting it into another. And for sure, I mean, um, bands like, let's say, Yes or Emerson, Lake and Palmer, they did the same thing, you know, with the
Yeah.
longer song themes. They
Yeah, we talked the last time about you talked a little bit about that in relation to Abbey Road, and that was Flower Power is kind of like your very, very large Abbey Road.
Yeah, yeah, in a way,
Yeah.
in a way. Uh, so it's like, and then it's something that I enjoy doing because if you have, let's say, you have a melodic theme, you know, and then I'm interested in hearing what could it be if you put a really big heavy riff behind it, where it maybe in the let's say in another part it's just played on the flute or a mellotron or something like just one single instrument, and then you can do it full on, you know. So that's something we used on the new album also.
Tell me about the beginning of "We Claim the Moon." You talked a little bit about your guitar going out of tune, and the way that this song starts is very unusual for a Flower Kings album.
Yeah, I worked a little bit on that actually because I mean it has this sort of Motown drum drive, you know, that starts a song.
Mm-hmm.
But then I thought it was I wanted to do something. I always wanted to do something different, you know. And how can you start a Flower Kings album a way that we haven't done before, you know? So add something new. So I took a bit of vocals that is in the song, I moved it to the beginning, and then I used some kind of a pitch shifter to make it sound like it's out of tune and it's almost played like on an old 78 rounds per minute.
Yeah.
I don't know what we call them in America. We call them yeah. I don't know what you call it. The old records you had back in the day, you know,
No, that's
they were
great. It's great that you say that because the thing that I wrote down was it sounds like this like that you start a record with the needle already on the record, and that's kind of the sound you kind of would get, this sort of off pitch, off tempo kind of vocal thing.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And I was I even what I did was I run it through a small speaker, and I had a microphone to the small speaker to make it sound even more fractured or you know old.
Yeah, I love the beat that Mirko de Mayo has in this thing, and it kind of the beat of it reminded me of There Is More to This World a little bit. It sort of has that
Yeah,
driving.
could be, yeah, yeah. Mhm.
The Elder is your sort of epic centerpiece, and again, I think a little bit of an unusual start. Was there some kind of effect added to the piano at the beginning of that?
Oh my goodness, I should know. I let me let me have a quick listen um to the piano. Oh, is it some kind of reverby sound or I don't remember.
It almost sounded like a toy piano. It was like a really high pitched kind of thing.
Oh, right. No, 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 I know. Yeah, I don't think it's even a piano. I think it's probably a what do you call it? I don't know what you call it in English, but it's um I should know. I don't know what it is. It's kind of I think it's something that was used in sometimes in film music in big orchestras to emulate some sort of almost like a glockenspiel.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
that thing. So of course sampled. I don't own that kind of an instrument, but it's something you can call up like from samples.
Okay. All
So
right.
it's like more like I would say like a children's instrument, toy instrument thing,
Like a little xylophone kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. The single, you guys made a video for How Can You Leave Us Now? And this is a just I feel like this is just a gorgeous song. It is maybe my favorite thing that you guys have released in many years. And I wanted to ask you about both the song and the video. So we'll start with the video. Do you like making videos? And the video also has sort of this circus tent kind of pattern going on, and it kind of ties it into the album. And I wondered if the album artwork and that was something you came up with or something that Inside Out suggested for you.
Well, it was well, a little bit of both, I think. I mean, the circus tent thing was something that came, I think, because we did choose first. We choose this the front cover of the album, and that happened to be like this from let's say the late 1800s, the traveling circuses, with this
Strong
strong guy.
man.
I
Yeah.
don't know how strong he was really, but he was just in the bars, and breaking out from prison, or he was breaking out from a tank with water or something like that, which, you know, with chains and so that was the starting point, and then I think when the guy who makes the booklet and all that, and he just sort of just starts spinning off that idea,
Yeah.
And then when we're doing the video, I think the same thing. The video people just saw the artwork and they thought that okay, let's move in that direction, and it's fine.
Yeah.
It's
It is very striking. I like it. I just wondered if do you like making videos or is that sort of a chore for you?
No, not really. To be to be honest, I don't like making video.
Yeah.
I mean, if the video is good in the end, but I mean, it's a bit, yeah. I mean, it's a lot of work, and we have to either you have to be in the video. I mean, now it's coming out in a couple of days. The next video is coming out, and we're not in that video. It's just like animated stuff now for the
Yeah.
second video, and the third video is something we're working on now. It's coming out about the same time as the album release.
Mm.
So that's another one we're gonna be in, performing or pretending that we're performing,
Yeah,
which
you
is
might.
what people do, But
Yeah.
it's not my favorite. I can think of things that I enjoy more.
Yeah, I'm sure you can. So, how can you leave us now? Is it a song I'm interested in where that song started because I'm really enjoying that one.
Well, the song, I think the interesting thing, well, I don't know how interesting it is, but it's from my point of view, the interesting thing is that something that I think it was last summer. There was a nice day, and I'm sitting here in the studio way too much. I was just thinking, I should get out. The sun is shining. I don't even see the sun from here from my studio room. So I need to get out, and I just go out and take my bike and go for a ride somewhere, in the woods, and this song just comes up. And I was lucky because I had my mobile phone with me, again, my little tape recorder. So this song just comes up, and I just have to stop my bicycle and start singing in the theme,
So,
um,
so
and
it was
then
the melody came to you while you were
oh
riding.
yeah, 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 yeah. And I think even the chorus, the lyrics of, I mean, the phrase, "How can you leave us now?" So maybe I think I don't know. Sometimes it's just a subconscious, It's you can't really tell where it came from, But I'm thinking it just felt like um, well, the situation is, I mean, in the world right now is kind of. It's serious business, in Ukraine, and the threat from Russia, etc.,
Hmm.
etc., towards Europe. And we're talking, I mean, just this morning we were watching the television, and they're saying now that the money the Swedish government gonna put into to sort of the military facilities, to up the sort of the defense we have in Sweden is like we haven't seen anything like that in 50 years. And I'm
Yeah.
thinking that many other countries in Europe, the same thing. And I mean, we have that, and then we have the conflict down in between Israel and Hamas and all that, and many other places that are maybe not mentioned that much in media, but it's like there's conflicts, and there's conflicts between groups of people that there wasn't really any conflict, but it's sort of everything is escalating in a troublesome way, I think.
Yeah.
So it's in some ways it feels like the political situation in all of the world is everyone hates everyone, or everyone is the other the other one's enemy for some reason I don't understand.
Yeah. I'm with you. I feel like that also those themes came out in the rubble as well.
Oh yeah, 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 and even yeah. There's a couple of songs actually, and I mean this one has a kind of a vague sort of, I wouldn't say religious, but it's like it's how can you leave us now? How does whatever good forces there are, did they leave now? Have they given up on the stupid people on planet Earth? Um, so it's a little bit like that, but I think I'm most of all I'm very happy with the feel of the song and the way the words and the music is something. While we were working with the song, I felt strongly that that was one of my favorite songs on the album. That just felt like perfect. And then I think I had to because there was, talk in the record label, etc., and within the band about certain songs we should do for video. And I have to say, well, guys, I think we should do How Can You Leave Us Now? Because I think that's really, from my point of view, one of the strongest songs on the album. And I managed them to listen to it again and say, oh, okay, let's do that one. So, and I'm glad we did, because I think even now, because we're rehearsing and rehearsing for playing it live, I feel every time I play it, I feel like I don't get tired of the song, and that's usually a good sign.
Yeah.
It's a simple song, but if the simple song and you don't get tired of a song, it carries something else, that is more than sort of. It may look like a simple song, but it's something else, bigger than the simple song.
Yeah, there's more there that going on than meets the eye. So you have a couple of short instrumental songs on the album. You've got Kaiser Razor, you've got World Spinning, and World Spinning was Lale's contribution to the writing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Do you remember him bringing you that song?
Yeah, I think I was just asking around, if people, do you have anything? And we were, I mean, just in, because he doesn't live in the same town as me. Lives in the south of Sweden. So we have email conversation or talk over Skype or something like that. But then I was just asking him, do you have something? Because it would be nice with something instrumental. You can give something to us, and we can sort of uh, expand it, or do something, put it in another song or edit it in. And he said, I may have something here, and I'll send it over to you. And he sent it, and I thought, oh, that's perfect. That's exactly what we need.
Yes.
So, and I mean, Lally he is writing lots of music, but I think he's torn between doing this, being in that ABBA tribute band that goes to America about 5 times a year, and then having, I mean, a child at home that's need attention, and in
Yeah.
that age.
Yeah.
Kids, they they uh, they expect you to play with them sometimes, and
Yes,
not
they
just
do.
by the boring piano.
Yeah, yeah, they need your attention. That's for sure. So, but I like where World Spinning falls in the album because you have the emotional impact of How Can You Leave Us Now, and that sort of resets you for the
Oh
rest
yeah,
of
yeah.
the album.
Yeah.
The Promise is an interesting song. You add an accordion here. Alexander Yusinski, I believe, is the person's name. How did you come to the conclusion? What we really need here is accordion.
I think actually I had some fake accordion played on a keyboard here. I mean, the sample of an
Uh-huh.
accordion. Uh, and Alexander is someone I've known for maybe 10 years. I think I've known him since he was a teenager. He contacted me. He and a couple of friends they lived in Belarus back then, I think. And they contacted me, and they were impressed by the Flower Kings music. And we had some contact, and I recorded some guitar for the track, and we kept in contact. He sometimes comes to concert, and then I realized he developed his accordion playing a lot over these whatever 10 or 15 years, and so he's actually a star when it comes to playing. I realized that now. I didn't realize that in the beginning, but I've heard him play so many times now. So he for instance he joined us on stage for the European tour, a couple of venues in Germany and in Czech Republic, etc. And then he even came to here to our hometown when we did like a Flower Kings weekend, at the theater here.
Mhm.
He came here, and even came another time to a small bookshop here in Uppsala, and played a set. So it's like we see each other every now and then. He's traveling around, I'm doing lots of projects. He wrote some kind of I wouldn't say symphony, but it's like a symphonic piece of music with an orchestra.
Oh.
I think that this was probably because he lives in the Czech Republic now with his wife, and this was with a youth orchestra, and they were playing his music, when I did some guitar work that he, in some strange way, took my guitar solo, and when they performed the music, he had my guitar solo on tape, so he could put it
Yeah.
in the performance, at the right spot.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't really it was more like you think like David Gilmour style, let's say, if you know what's the song, Shine on You Crazy Diamond,
Oh, yeah.
where
Yeah.
David Gilmour started the guitar solo, it's just floating, that kind of thing. So I put in a couple of minutes of that kind of thing, and they took it to the orchestra, and
Hmm.
I played with the orchestra in Czech Republic without even being there. That's
There you
Oh,
go.
but anyway, so that's Alexander, and yeah, I mean he play on the new album, and And I just felt like, well, we have a guy that can play the accordion. Of course, we shouldn't use a sample. We should use the real thing, you know.
Yeah. He's also on Love Is that correct? He's also on that song a little
I
bit.
think so.
Yeah. The album ends with another 10-minute song. This is Considerations. This one's from Michael. And tell me a little bit about Michael and putting this at the end because it's got a different flavor with a different vocalist.
It just felt like it could be a good ending song because it's where we're slowing down. The very last bit, we're slowing down the tempo a bit, so it's kind of heavy, probably the heaviest part of the album, you know.
Yeah.
S- It just felt like it was a good way to end the album, you know. It has this theme and then it's going around and there's guitar solos and the big wall of sound finally, you know. So it's, but I mean, the song in its, if all of the song is like divided into different parts, and some of them are very tiny, you know, and just glockenspiel and a voice or a little keyboard thing, and some other parts are really, you know, in your face, more like guitar and keyboard heavy.
Yeah. It has a nice, very gentle ending, which kind of, um, gives you a nice feeling, a nice vibe at the end of a Flower Kings album, the kind of vibe that you would expect to get from a Flower Kings album.
Yeah, I mean, it's like again a typical. Uh, well, something we stole from the grandmasters of classical music, you know. You have this bombastic thing, you know, and in the end, it's just like the flutes, you know, the piccolo flutes and the very very sort of thin violin sounds, you know, and then maybe
Yeah.
like a triangle or something like that.
Oh,
So,
pastoral end to it. Yeah.
yeah. And again, like movie soundtrack, it's
Yeah.
always sort of the movie soundtrack thing is floating around there, you know.
Yeah. Very cinematic. So you're going to take this out on tour and you're going to be reunited with your old friend Neil Morse. Neil Morse and the Resonance is opening for you guys.
Oh, true. And no one's opening. It's just like we're like on a double bill. So some of
Okay.
the nights they're gonna play first, some of the nights we're gonna play first. So we just try to equal time, equal billing,
Yeah.
equal money.
There you go. You're
Yeah.
gonna any chance we're gonna get a DVD out of this tour or anything?
Uh, we haven't decided yet, but there has been talks about it. You know, usually you would like to do that towards the end of the tour. And I think the end of the tour is in Italy. And I don't know if we really know anyone in Italy that has that kind of service. We can get it recorded in Germany. So maybe we do.
Yeah.
We have an offer, but so maybe we do. But yeah, it would be nice, of course. It would be nice.
Any
And
chance we're gonna get We All Need Some Light with you and Neil, or you don't want to spoil that?
it's probably going to be even more than that, I would say.
Okay.
We have been looking for a few things, you know, whatever from the whirlwind or something like that.
Oh, very nice. Very
Yeah, I
nice.
mean we're on stage there, so uh, it comes natural, I think.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well,
People,
this album is I think it's a great um progression from what you guys have done not just recently but also harkening back to the early classic sound of the Flower Kings. I feel like this is going to do really well for you and I'm very excited for you. I hope it does really well. Where's the best place for people to get this where it helps the band the most? Where should people go buy this album?
uh, anywhere,
Yes,
anywhere. But I think they should buy the album, not download it.
yes.
I know I'm against the world here, but I'm not much of a downloader. I think I do have downloaded a couple of albums myself over the years, you know, but it's maybe tops 10 albums, you know, and I don't listen that much to them that way, you know. But I think pe people can buy it anywhere. I mean, their favorite local record dealer is a good thing because the record stores can be there still, you know. So, but they can order online, of course,
Yeah.
and I
So
mean,
we know it'll
any
be on the
store.
Inside Out shop. We know Amazon will have it.
Totally, totally, totally. Totally, and I think any record store that has any kind of progressive or sometimes progressive metal and stuff like that will of course have it because that's the good thing being on Sony because you can get your records out in different parts of the world and in different store. Even you go to Mumbai or somewhere in Thailand or in South America, you can get the album.
Okay.
So that's good.
Where's the best place for people to keep up with what you're doing on your Facebook or your website?
Either I would say web. I don't know website. Facebook is probably something we update more frequently.
Hmm.
So look at the Flower Kings Facebook, I
There you
think.
go. All right. Well, the album is called Love, comes out on Inside Out on May 2nd. Uh, 17 studio albums. It probably
Uh,
seems crazy to you.
A little bit, yeah, yeah. But I mean, how can we stop now? It's probably going to be a couple of more before we close the book, I think. Hopefully. I mean, we have, as I said, we have already almost half an album that we started working on. So definitely one more.
Well, we hope you keep turning them out as long as you guys are able to, and as long as you guys feel motivated to do it, because it's something that we all enjoy. It's something that's part of the soundtrack to our lives. So thank you for sharing with me the stories behind this record. I hope it does really well for you, and thank you once again for your time.
Thanks, Michael. Thanks.